You know how they say fake it till you make it? Well, someone took this phrase literally until she actually made it. To jail. But before that, she was actually on the cover of Forbes magazine. Like that guy. And that guy. And that guy. Yeah, that's me. No, this is a fake image. I just put it there so that you would subscribe. But I was hoping you would appreciate the effort that I put in Photoshop so that you would do that. I think you should. No? Yeah? Do it. Okay, so this woman, Elizabeth Holmes, dropped out of Stanford and raised $1.4 billion for her health tech startup Theranos. Time showed that it was quite a scam because she didn't even have a product. She didn't have a working product. It was quite the drama. And if you're into that, I really recommend... And if you're into that, I really recommend you watching this short series. It would tell the story of Theranos a lot better than anyone would. But how, in heaven's name, did she convince investors to invest more than $1.4 billion in a startup that had no product? Well, it started with a pitch deck. So let's take a look at the pitch deck. Theranos. Alright, so they start off by a cover slide. That was in 2006. Gosh, that was such a long time ago. So they start off with a summary, which is uncommon in decks you see nowadays. Nowadays, they usually tell a story. They start by problem and then solution and so on. Some decks do have a summary like that, but decks like WeWork or decks of companies that already have strong traction would do that. Theranos didn't have it by then, so it's a little bit confusing. By the way, this deck was used to raise their seed funding. They kept raising funds until they raised a total of $1.4 billion. Here's a common phrase for you. Traction is king. They knew that. So they immediately start putting their numbers. The only problem is if you really look at the numbers at that slide, you'll see that a lot of it is projected. Revenue in the next 1.5 years. It's not, they only value the deals they have, which is based on a product which didn't exist. So it's sort of a loop here. And then they have to put a face to it so that they would establish trust. And that's why they have this management or team slide, which has Elizabeth Holmes and other team members. Of course, here they have to showcase as many pharmaceutical companies or as many technological companies because they work in health tech. So they put the details of the people working there or the peoples of the directors with their previous companies. Then they show the initial machine they created. It doesn't look very pretty, but remember, that was 2006 and they worked in health tech. So it didn't really matter how it looked like as long as it had accurate results, which it didn't. Yeah. They segment their product into 3 phases so that they would explain what's inside the product or how the product works in details. So this is how the product works, which is also very common amongst current pitch decks in the market. Now this slide shows you how they imagine Theranos is in the future and how the operational plan is, how they intend to deal with partners, pharmacies, homes. What is the integration of all of that? Where do they stand in the market? Now remember one thing, most of the readers of this deck were pharmaceutical companies that they raised funds from, or people who are interested in health or medicine. So they needed to show some medical statistics. A lot of slides in this pitch deck are targeted for people with a medical background. I'm not saying that this slide is particularly targeted for that because it's a little bit easy to understand that one, but a lot of slides you're going to see later on are targeted toward medical people. Nonetheless, here they're just saying the product features, how much blood they need, what the time it is. Interesting part here is accuracy, results comparable to gold standards. Gold standards, yeah. So this slide is the value proposition or the unique selling point of Theranos. They're just showing how, in bullet points, how they're intending to increase the pharmaceutical sales because this is their main target of people who are raising investments from or their deals per se. From slide 10 till slide 13, they're just showcasing their product and how it is with Theranos monitoring, with their monitoring. So you can say this is kind of a use case or how it would display or what they are in terms of operations. Again, this is purely medical because if you're a medical individual or person who knows medicine quite well or studied it or a pharmaceutical company, you would be interested in seeing how long it takes or how it operates in terms of, the medical aspect of it. Then they start talking about the TAM, or the total addressable market, being in the clinical market with a size of around 39 billion per year, and a little more statistics around the market size. Now, I don't doubt these numbers. These numbers they don't have to be a scam whatsoever, because they're probably researched. Yet what is predicted is average Theranos revenue per trial, which is 50 million. This also might be true, but the product didn't exist. So another market they're addressing is the pharmaceutical preclinical market. Again, it's more of the same when it comes to the market sizing. So slide 16, I would call it business model rather than Theranos value proposition. There's just saying how they're intending to make revenue and what are their margins, because if you're really interested in investing, then you ought to see this yourself. They also put in big letters in this slide that the cost of pharmaceutical companies is 20 to 30% less than the current costs. Then you have to wonder, are there really problems with the current market? And that's why they're proposing the solution? This is exactly what they thought in terms of a storyboard. That's why the next slide is the pains in the existing market. What are the current problems with the existing market? I like the transition from this one to this one. It's to the point. Slide 18 is usually I would say the slide was made just so that they would spare some questions in the end. So where can it be done? Just general questions that people have after a presentation of a pitch deck. This is a solution, or it's Q&As. These are the A's in the Q&As. They're starting to close the deck, and that's why they're saying their drivers for success include the first mover's advantage, along with other things like patents and what they have on the table. Then they start talking money. They're saying they're offering how much money invested already by existing investors and the new investors, all details about the investment, along with the slide that is very famous as well, slide 21, which shows the potential of the current investors who are leading the investment round. And you would see that these names are quite established and quite known. This slide, I would say this slide is more than enough for anything, because it created a sense of trust and FOMO that people who would look at that, all these people are investing, then they can't be investing in a fake product. They have to be investing in something that is big. That's why they would be sold after seeing this slide alone. Finally, if you're not going to use Theranos, then you're going to use the alternative, which is today's lab. So they just put, I think these are extra slides just so that when people ask, why wouldn't we just use current labs, they would show the Theranos system versus today's labs. It's just there for it to be there in case anyone asks the question. All right, so as an overview of this deck, or an analysis of it, I would say it's a little bit wordy and it's arrogant. And they know that, but they didn't have to prove anything because they were backed by very big names, and they showed that in the slide that shows the current investors. Additionally, everyone knew that the market of health is waiting for a big company, because Apple was already there and it was already starting to boom. So someone was anticipating this was gonna happen, and there was a very big sense of fear of missing out. All right, so this was Theranos' deck. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. Oh, and also this is part of a new series called the Wednesday of Entrepreneurship. So if you're interested in that, please don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Thank you very much for watching, and have a wonderful day.